Doom Eternal has exploded onto the gaming scene like a rocket hitting an imp, and by the looks of it, gamers are happy about the mess. Record-breaking sales numbers and glowing critical praise are proof that Doom Eternal is a certifiable hit. And while many Slayers are still sinking their teeth into what this incredible shooter has to offer, many can't help but wonder, what's next? What do those twisted wizards at id Software have up their sleeves? Doom 6? And what more can we still expect from Doom Eternal? In this video, we'll be discussing the future of the Doom franchise and id Software. And make sure you stick around towards the end for some more earthquaking speculation. Let's begin. First off, let's talk about Doom Eternal. By now, many Doomers have likely finished Eternal's main campaign, multiple times even, I know I have, and understandably, we are hungry for more. Luckily, id has confirmed they are working on 2 single-player DLC campaigns for the game. In fact, there's a season pass available for purchase right now, because you know, we just love buying blind season passes. As of the release of this video, id has remained fairly tight-lipped on what these campaigns might bring, much to our dismay. Fortunately for you, I have a couple theories on what these DLCs could bring based on clues found in Eternal's main campaign. The first one being in its second mission, Exultia. The Slayer comes across a character called the Betrayer, real name Valen, who was a proud commander in the Sentinels who sadly was driven mad after the loss of his only son. Desperate to save his son from hell, Valen made a deal with the Hell Priests to give them access to the Sepulchre of Elements in exchange for resurrecting his son. Unsurprisingly, this did not go as planned, and Valen's son was resurrected as the Icon of Sin, which all but assured Hell's victory over the Knight Sentinel. Guilt-ridden by what he had done, Valen chose exile, only to be later found by the Slayer. If I had to bet, I'd say we are likely to see a DLC campaign dedicated to Valen the Betrayer, either showing his backstory or picking up with him after the Slayer leaves. Why do I think this? Well, this is the only time in the game you see this character, and clearly the id team put quite a bit of effort into introducing him and designing his character model, which has equipment oddly similar to the Slayer's, like that shoulder cannon. It's as simple as this. Game development is expensive. Why waste the money and time designing a high-quality character model like this if you're only going to use it once? It just seems like there's a lot of stuff revolving around this one character that we only see for a few minutes. So yes, once again, I think we are getting a Betrayer campaign. In fact, if I could ramp it up a notch, maybe it's a co-op campaign with him and the Slayer in the vein of Wolfenstein Youngblood. Probably not, hopefully not, but it's fun to speculate. A second theory comes from something pretty obvious, the Fortress of Doom. The Fortress is the Slayer's spooky base of operations packed full of unlockable goodies and Easter eggs, but there's not a whole lot of explanation on how the Slayer got here in the first place. See, Doom 2016 ends on quite the cliffhanger, with Dr. Samuel Hayden taking the Crucible from the Slayer and teleporting him away somewhere. When Doom Eternal begins, we find the Slayer already inside the fortress, orbiting Earth. It's a little surprising, actually. While the codexes tell us that Dr. Hayden returned to Earth with the Crucible and led the human race in solving the energy crisis, there's no real explanation of what happened to the Slayer in the time between Doom 2016 and Eternal. So my guess is that a DLC could cover this period of time, focusing on the Slayer regrouping after Dr. Hayden's betrayal and commandeering the fortress. It may also give us some insight as to why there's a giant broken mech just chilling in the middle of the fortress. Another part of the game that may hint at single-player DLC comes when the player goes to Sentinel Prime and learns the major revelation. Seriously, if you don't want Doom Eternal spoiled, click away now. That the Doom Slayer is indeed the same Doom Marine from the original games. Yep, that's right. After his initial demon-killing spree in Doom 1, 2, and Doom 64, the Marine, now driven insane, is taken in by the Knight Sentinel, who eventually train him to become the Doom Slayer. This basically confirms that Doom 2016 is technically Doom 4, which means Doom Eternal is technically Doom 5. It's all connected, man. After this, you go to Terras Nabad, where you battle demons through the remains of what was one of the Slayer's first legendary battles with the Sentinels, which ended with him defeating a Titan with the Crucible. So, if you can't tell where I'm going with all this, I think one of the DLC campaigns will be a prequel story of the Slayer's early exploits with the Knight Sentinel, which will include this original battle with the Titan. My reasonings? Well, other than just being awesome, much like the Betrayer, it's all about the assets. Why why go through the trouble of creating it if you're just going to use it so briefly? I mean, look at this flashback. Who is this maker guy in the robe? Who is this weird dude who meets the Slayer? There's a lot of breadcrumbs here, and I don't think id is being cryptic for the sake of it. Plus, the Slayer's battle with the Titan is something that was teased back in Doom 2016, and it just seems like id would love to show this off. Hopefully, it will have less tentacle in it. Alright, enough of Eternal. Now let's get to the real juicy stuff. Doom 6, or maybe they could call it Doom 666. Too on the nose? Do I think there will be a Doom 6 or a follow-up game to Doom Eternal? Yeah, I do. Doom Eternal is selling very, very well, and last I checked, Bethesda likes money. So you can definitely bet on seeing more demon carnage in the future. But when will we get Doom 6 and what will it be? See, that's where things get a little tricky. As far as the what, well, that's the hardest thing to answer because Doom Eternal ends pretty definitively. The Slayer has killed the Icon of Sin, ending the demonic invasion, and he's killed the Makers, pretty much freeing the human race from being messed with for the foreseeable future. There's no cliffhanger, no post-credit scene. Well, there is a post-credit scene, but it's more for laughs. Nothing at the end hints at what could come. The Slayer basically walks off into the sunset. Now, I have looked through Eternal's codexes for any hint, and I honestly can't say I found much. There was mention that a few thousand humans escaped from Earth cryogenically frozen on a few spaceships, which could lead into something for Doom 6, and there are extensive histories on both the Sentinels and the Makers in which I could see a new Doom game focusing on that. Perhaps the DLC theory I had for a Slayer prequel story could just end up being Doom 6. Otherwise, there isn't much to go on. However, don't let that discourage you. Remember when Halo 3 ended and wrapped up the chief story? Nope, because they found a way to make Halo 4, just like they found a way to make Gears 4 and God of War 4 and Metal Gear Solid 5. If enough money is made, games will find a way. Trust me. And what that means for Doom 6 is that whatever it ends up being is probably going to be something totally different, which is exciting. I mean, we've been doing this whole hell portal on Mars and demons invading Earth thing one too many times here. It'd be nice to see a fresh hook in the Doom universe. Now, as far as when, well, I hate to say it, but it's probably gonna be a while, and not for the obvious reasons. In his recent interview on Joe Rogan, Doom Eternal director Hugo Martin did say that id was working on the next thing, but of course couldn't say what it was. Now, this could easily be Doom 6, but frankly, I'd bet on it being a new IP. Now, id's last IP, Rage, might have been a disappointment, but that was made in a time when id was in a bit of a slump, and honestly, they didn't have the same creative spirit this new team does. This is not the id of John Carmack and John Romero. This is a fresh team that has been on fire in the last 5 years with these new Doom games. I have to imagine these people are chomping at the bit to create something new, and I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't a first-person shooter. Blasphemy, I know, but do me a favor, read through all of Doom Eternal's lore, and you tell me you wouldn't love seeing these guys take a crack at an RPG. So I think id will be in the trenches on a new IP while still producing their other franchises, stuff like Wolfenstein and Rage, and I'm sure new sequels for those are on their way. And then, when this new game is finished and released, that's when they get in gear for Doom 6. And by that point, we could see it released towards the end of the next console generation. Now, take everything I just said with a grain of salt. It's just speculation and I could easily be wrong. But after almost a decade of getting these new Doom games out the door, I have to imagine this team is ready for something new. Now, before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last bit of speculation that I think is highly unlikely but kind of fun to think about in terms of directions id can go. Quake. Now, obviously, the Quake franchise was revived recently with Quake Champions. However, in terms of single player, the franchise hasn't had much love since the mixed reception of Quake 4. Now, something to keep in mind about Quake is that while Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are obviously sequels to Doom 1, 2, and 64, they can also be considered spiritual successors to Quake 1 and Quake 2, seeing as how those games also had a huge focus on verticality and fast, offensive gameplay. There's a good argument to be had that that these new Doom games take far more from the Quake series. Hell, even the power-ups are direct references to Quake, quad damage to be specific. So what would be the point in making a new single-player Quake game? Seems like it would be a little redundant, right? And didn't I just get done explaining why I think id wants to take a break from this style of first-person shooter? Well, consider this. About a year ago, founder of Machine Games, Jörg Gustafsson, expressed quite a bit of interest in reimagining Quake on a Reddit AMA. Quake is the reason I got into gaming. Discovering worldcraft and level design making maps for Quake was one of the best experiences of my life. I even still do it today. Developing a Quake game, a reimagination of Quake 1, is and always will be on my bucket list. Now, if you remember, Machine Games are the current developers of the Wolfenstein series and have worked quite well with id to bring a fresh take to that franchise, which was not in the best shape when they took over. Plus, something people forget is that Machine Games actually released a brand new episode for the original Quake back in 2016. So perhaps, much like with Rage 2, id could be developing a new Quake game jointly with Machine Games. That's certainly something I'd want to see. Now, before you get too excited, it's probably more likely Machine is busy with Wolfenstein 3. So if any sort of wondrous collaboration like this was to happen, it likely wouldn't materialize anytime soon. But man, can you imagine it? Remember how much of a surprise Wolfenstein: The New Order was? No one expected that game to be as good and as fresh as it was. Putting that sort of talent towards the Quake universe might unlock some great potentials for the series. What potential might that be though? How could Machine and id possibly break new ground in the Quake franchise? Well, I do have one theory. What if the new Quake wasn't a traditional first-person shooter at all? What if it took a much different path, a path originally conceived for it back in id's heyday? See, early in development, the original Quake was envisioned to be something much different, a game that resembled more of an action RPG with the main character, named Quake, being a warrior who wielded a Thor-like hammer to dispatch his foes. Being inspired by the id team's D&D sessions, the very same sessions that inspired Doom, Quake would be a more story-driven affair and be something entirely different from Doom and Wolfenstein. However, due to numerous issues during development, which are all detailed in the brilliant Masters of Doom book, seriously, read this book, it's amazing, the id guys were forced to drop a lot of these ideas and turn Quake into a straightforward first-person shooter, which ended up working out since Quake became the gold standard of how to do a first-person shooter in 3D and was beloved by just about everyone. But imagine, what if our current id team approached Quake again, taking inspiration from John Romero's initial ideas and reinvented Quake to be an action RPG take on the first-person genre, or maybe make it into a different genre altogether. Or perhaps, in case they're nervous about using the Quake IP for such a thing, maybe this could be the foundation for the new IP. I mean, hey, if Doom Eternal has proven anything, id is all about delving into their history and bringing it to the forefront in fresh new ways. In fact, something just occurred to me. If we hop back to our friend Valen the Betrayer, who wields a big hammer, and put him side by side with the Quake guy, that's interesting. Once again, take all of this with a grain of salt. Is it likely to happen? Probably not, but it's fun to think about. Man, what if John Romero actually came back to direct it too? Now we're getting into some crazy talk, aren't we? But hey, what do you guys think? What do you want to see id Software do next? Anybody have their own crazy theories on this? Leave me a comment, I really want to know. If you like this video, be sure to click that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up for a like. I post videos every week and have more reviews and speculation videos in the pipeline. Also, be sure to check out my video review for Doom Eternal, linked here in the video. Spoiler alert, I liked it a lot. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.